Hi, everybody. Happy second week. I hope your semesters are going well so far. My name is Addie Chung. I'm the Associate Director for International Student Career Engagement at the USC Career Center. I see some familiar names and profile pictures here, so happy to see you here. I'm sure I've advised some of you, and if not, please feel free to come to the Career Center for a drop-in, schedule an advising appointment with me or any of my colleagues. We're all here to support you. All right, so let's move on with the presentation. So this session is how to secure an internship for international students. First of all, what is an internship? Does anybody want to share in the chat what they think an internship is? I know I kind of gave you the answer here, huh? I can go to the previous slide. Pop quiz. What is an internship? Thanks, Hao-chan. All right, an opportunity to learn. We got that. Yes, internship is an opportunity to learn. So really, an internship is sort of your entry into the world of work. That's where you can get hands-on experience in an industry or a specific job function that you're interested in. Internships can be paid or unpaid, although obviously we prefer paid, and I believe that interns should be paid fairly. And I think fewer employers are doing unpaid internships these days, so that's fortunate. They tend to be more structured than a full-time job. So if you're wondering what the difference is between an internship and a full-time job, a lot of companies, especially the larger ones with really well-established internship programs, they'll have like very structured training programs for their interns. And they may also give you the opportunity to try out different roles within the organization. So it really is like a learning experience, like an entry into that organization to really find the fit for you. They may have you do projects. They may give you like more check-ins and assessments to keep you on track. So it really is a great starting point for the world of work. Just a quick question to the audience here. And if you can type in the chat, I'm just curious for my own sake, so I can tailor some of this to you. Who here is a master's student and who here is an undergraduate student? See a lot of masters. Let's see a few undergrads too. That's great. And this session is open to everyone. So for those of you who are curious, like, oh, is this for me? I'm trying to keep this broad for everyone. If you have any questions specific to your degree level, I will try to address those. But all of this is applicable to all degree levels. Great. Thanks for sharing. All right. So back to the slides. So internships really are, whether you're an undergraduate student or a master's student or even a doctoral student, an internship is a great way to get your foot in the door. And different internship opportunities may be tailored to different degree levels as well. Some employers may only be looking to take on undergraduate interns, while others may be looking to take on master's interns. For doctoral students, maybe you'll be focusing more on research. And those research opportunities with professors, often at USC, are a great entry point as well to your field. And it's really common, we've seen at the Career Center that internships are the #1 way for our students to find full-time jobs after they graduate. So it really is that way to get your foot in the door. And the USC Career Center and also your school career centers have a lot of resources to help you with the internship search. So what can you gain from an internship? So as we mentioned, it's a learning experience. You can get experience and skills in your specific field. For both undergraduate and master's students, it's kind of finding your niche, right? For master's students, you may have a better sense of specifically what area you want to go into, but you can get even deeper in that in terms of the types of work type of work that you do every day, and or the the company that you're working within, or the company culture. So it's a great way to try that out, and get make connections with professionals in your industry or in your job function. So oftentimes those relationships and connections that you make in your first internship are ones that you will maintain throughout your career. That may be the person who becomes a mentor to you, or you might meet someone who connects you with your first job opportunity. Maybe it's not in the same company, but they know somebody. So it's a really great way to start building that professional network. It also helps you gain exposure to a company. So maybe your dream is to work for Meta, but that's only because Meta sounds like an amazing place and it's so famous, but you don't really know much about what it's really like to work there. So maybe you get an internship there, and that's finally you have a chance to see what it's like to work at Meta. You may decide, yes, this is exactly what I expected and I love it and I want to work here. Or you may realize, actually, I don't like this company culture and I don't like working here and I want to work somewhere else. And that's a really helpful thing to know. It also can help you figure out, what role is the right fit for you. Like I said, you may try out some different roles within an internship. Or even if you're not doing that, if just having that experience in one role will help you decide, okay, is this the role that I want, or do I want to try something else? So just learning through doing is a really great way to figure out your career goals. And professionalism. So doing an internship can help you understand what U.S. professional work culture looks like. What does it, what should an email read like? How do I talk to colleagues? What does professional communication look like? What is a professional attire like in this specific company? Because if different companies have different dress codes or different professional expectations, some might be more casual than others. Just speaking from my experience, my role, the professional attire, I dress a lot more professionally for my work than my husband does, for example, because he works in like a marketing merchandising role where it's a lot more casual. So just depending on like the job, the industry, and the specific company, their expectations may be different. So that can give you some experience of what it's like to be, to work in that company, and what their expectations are. And then like I said, this is a great way to potentially get your foot in the door if you want to work for that company long term. As I said, internships are the #1 way students find full-time jobs. So ideally, if you're doing an internship with a company you're interested in and it all goes well, that will convert to a full-time job, and that in turn, maybe your boss will offer you a full-time role after you graduate. That's the dream. So that is something that you can get out of an internship. So let's get into the internship search and internship applications. So first, it's really important to know yourself, right? If for those of you who have explored our Career Center website, you may have seen the career development process. This is the first step in your career journey. You really need to understand what your strengths are. What are your skills, hard and soft skills? What are your interests? And how do they apply to the industry or the role that you are passionate about or interested in? So in order to know that, you also have to know what that industry or role is looking for. So I always recommend, and I say this all the time, the job description is sort of like your cheat sheet for what an industry or role is looking for. What are the skills that matter? And so, that can be helpful for you to get a sense of like, what are the skills that I have and what are the skills that I don't have that I need to, learn so that I can get into this industry. And so having a sense of that before you start your search can be really helpful, and so that you know how to accurately market yourself. Be aware of recruiting deadlines as well. So the majority of kind of traditional industries do most of the recruiting starting in the fall, like right now, starting in August. It's in alignment with, universities, like big career fairs in the fall. It's in alignment with, when students are looking for jobs as well. So I know that can be scary, intimidating sounding for those of you who are just starting here at USC. But that's why we have all of these resources to support you in preparing like your resume and your cover letter, and we have our different events and career fairs to help you connect with employers. Some industries like marketing, education, nonprofits, government jobs, they may do recruiting a little later, like in the spring. And then like finance and consulting, actually, some of them started earlier in the summer as well. So that's just something to be mindful of so that you're not missing those deadlines. There are, exceptions as well. So, occasionally jobs will open up outside of those timelines, but that's usually the exception, not the rule. And it's often because someone has left the company. So that's something to be aware of as well. So understand the internship description. As I said, that job and internship description is sort of like your cheat sheet for really everything that you need for your resume, for your cover letter, and also for the interview. So I really recommend that you save that internship description, because sometimes after they close, you won't be able to find them again. So save them, download them as a PDF or as a Word document so that you can refer to it later, because you're going to need that if you do get invited to interview. And then also make sure that you're accurately answering the question about whether or not you require visa sponsorship in the future. So I get a lot of students that say, well, I'm just applying for an internship, so I don't require visa sponsorship right now. And the question is actually, do you now or will you in the future require visa sponsorship? So even if you don't need it now, if you need it in the future, you have to answer yes to that question. The other thing I hear from students is, well, I don't actually plan to seek visa sponsorship. I'm just going to do my OPT and then I'm going to return home. So can I just say no to that question? Unfortunately, you still have to say yes to that question. And the reason for that is, think about it from the employer perspective. Employers, they like to hire interns as someone who they can convert to a full-time employee. Most employers like to do internships as like a training boot camp, basically, for full-time employees. And so if they feel like you're not going to stay with them in the long term, or basically like they want to be able to see that you're going to stay with them long term. So if you're being honest about the fact that you seek sponsorship, that will also ensure that they understand your situation, if you're going to be able to stay with them long term or not. I think also employers who are willing to sponsor in the future are also more likely to be able to do CPT and OPT, because they're just more familiar with that process in general. So it's always best just to be honest, because ultimately, if the employer, gives you a job offer with the thinking that maybe you don't require sponsorship, it's not going to turn out well when they learn after the fact that you do, and they're not able to sponsor. Ultimately, they might just have to rescind your job offer, or they may blacklist you from future opportunities. So it's better just to focus on companies that are willing to recruit international candidates. So sorry, that was kind of a long kind of side note, but I get that question a lot, so I wanted to kind of address that up front. So where do I find an internship at USC? I hope you're all familiar with Handshake now. I think you must be, because you registered for this event. So, as you know, Handshake has a jobs section where you can search for jobs and internships. You can actually filter specifically for internships in that job board. And you can also filter for, if you go to the more filters section and you scroll down to the bottom, there's an option to select employers that are willing to hire for CPT or OPT. That's a great one to select when you're looking for an internship, because that will ensure that the employer is familiar with the CPT OPT process and they're open to hiring international talent. And usually those are the same ones that are willing to sponsor for H-1B, but you can also select that as a filter if you'd like. There's some other kind of outside job search job boards that are for specific for different industries. So Art Search, for example, is for art opportunities. Bridge is for music. So if you're looking for an internship in the music industry, Bridge is great. Environmental career opportunities is another one. Opportunities in public affairs. There's also USA Jobs for government jobs. There's higher ed jobs if you're looking for jobs in higher ed. And so those are all more industry specific job boards that you can find on the Career Center website. And also, whether you're undergrad, master's, PhD, postdoc, definitely check out your school specific career centers and career fairs. So especially for those higher degrees like master's, PhD, doctoral, postdoc, it's really important that you use your school-based career centers because they're the ones who have that industry-specific expertise. So, at the Central Career Center, we're more like career generalists. We try to provide a breadth of resources for everyone, but we can't really go deep in any specific industry. And so when you're wanting to go deeper in your industry, they're really the people who you should be seeking out. And they have their own career fairs as well, Viterbi, Marshall, Annenberg, Price, etc. They all have career fairs or career engagement opportunities with employers where you'll be able to connect with employers who are hiring in your industry. So definitely check those out, and you can find all of those on Handshake as well. We also have the Fall Career Fair. That's that's the biggest event that's hosted by the Career Center every year. There's one in the fall. There's also two career fairs in the spring for all students, and those are in person, right on Truesdale Parkway. You'll see all of the employers lined up there, and students, you can wait in line to meet with the employers that you're interested in, have your elevator pitch prepared, copies of your resume. So that's a really great opportunity to find internship opportunities because most of the employers there are seeking to hire for the summer. And that's actually coming up a week from today. So if you haven't RSVP'd yet, please do so. And then there's the International Student Virtual Career Fair. That's an event just for international students. And that's coming up on September 24th. And it is virtual. Like I said, it'll be hosted in vFairs, which is a virtual events platform. In that event, you'll have the opportunity to connect with employers in two different formats. So there are two time blocks. One is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., which is for North America-based employers. And then 6 to 9 p.m., we have employers in the Asia Pacific region who are looking to recruit for opportunities abroad. And each of those time blocks is split into two parts. The first part will be industry roundtables, where the employers will have one rep each within their industry roundtable, and you'll be able to go to their roundtable and ask questions. So it's just going to be an open Q&A with like a panel of employers in one industry, and they will rotate every 20 minutes. So you might start with consulting, and then you can go on to financial services. So I try to encourage students to rotate through all the industries because it's really important to think about the difference between industry and job function, right? Because you can do, for example, if you want to be, if you want to do website development, for example, web development, you can do that for any industry. So you should be rotating through all the industries to learn about the opportunities that they have, because you might realize that, oh, actually, this educational company or this education organization has a job in my job function, even if I'm not someone who has a background in education, if that makes sense. Okay, just okay, sorry about that. Okay, so other places to find internships. So workshops, there are, workshops at the Career Center like this one, where you can learn about how to find an internship. There are also workshops that are hosted by employers that you can find in Handshake, where they may give you tips on how to find an internship. There are coffee chats, which are more like intimate one-on-one sessions with employers, where you can chat with a recruiter or an employer representative and learn more about, you know, what it's like to work in their company. And they're hosted at the Career Center. We have the career fairs, like I already mentioned, and then industry insights. That's an event that's a series of industry employer roundtables. So employers from different industries will all be grouped together and kind of talk about what it's like to work in their industry, and you can ask them questions and learn from them. And there's also Trojan Talks, which are employer-led sessions. They're often here in person at the Career Center, and that can be everything from on a topic of their choosing. So anything from like resume tips, crafting your elevator pitch, understanding how to get into the industry, networking, or they may just be introducing their company. So a lot of different topics. And if you're following that employer on Handshake, you'll be the first to know when they are hosting an event. So I always recommend, you know, as you start exploring employers in Handshake, start to follow them so that you'll be notified if they post any new opportunities or hosting or attending any of our events. Some additional external resources generally to find internships. So Extern is a platform where you can find remote internships. So they're all nothing in person, they're all remote. They call them externships, but it's the same as an internship, basically. Parker Dewey is a platform where you can actually find micro internships. What that means is oftentimes they're project-based and they're micro because they're often less than even 20 hours a week. It may be like, you know, depending on the project, it may be like 5 hours, maybe 10 hours, maybe 8 hours. And you can gain hands-on experience in your job function with different companies through these micro internships. Forage. So, sorry, I skipped LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is, you know, I think a lot of you are already familiar that LinkedIn has a job board, and a lot of companies are using it. It's a pretty robust job board. So definitely recommend, in addition to using Handshake for your internship and job search, you can also search in LinkedIn, and you can also filter by internship level opportunities. Forage is specific to students who are looking to get into consulting. Forage is sort of a way to try out consulting before you kind of dive into that as a field. So you basically get to do a realistic case study. It's a 6-hour self-led experience where you try out a case study that is usually built by a company. Well, it's built by different companies, but sometimes big companies like BCG, Chase, they will build these case studies for you to try out. So it's a really great way to get some experience. It's a great way to get some experience in consulting before you kind of commit to doing that as your job. Okay, and so then next, Management Consulted, that's another resource specific to consulting. So all of these are resources that you can find on our website. And Management Consulted is one that is really helpful because it will give you notifications when there's a deadline coming up for one of the top consulting companies. It has video recordings of people who are working in the top consulting firms, kind of asking them, you know, what's like to work in that organization, what the culture is like, gives you tips on preparing for the case interview, gives you some practice case interview questions. So it's a really comprehensive platform for consulting, and they also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and it will send you you know, notifications, reminders about deadlines. It'll send you like tips on how to get into consulting. So it's a really handy platform. So now, pivoting more to international student focused resources, I'm going to go over 3 that I really love called InterStride, Going Global, and F1 Hire. And some of you may already be familiar with these resources, but I'm going to share them in a little more detail for you. I think I see that Lauren joined us. So hi, Lauren. I think I already went over your part, but you're here for Q&A at the end, so we can go over that as well. So InterStride. I love this platform. InterStride was created by a former international student specifically for international students because he saw that it was just really hard to find information about what employers are willing to sponsor for H-1B, you know, who are the top sponsoring employers in my industry. And so he created this platform, and it's really kind of a one-stop shop for all things, you know, career and job and visa related for international students. So some of my favorite features of InterStride are their webinars. So that would be under their Learn tab here. So they have webinars throughout the year. You can register for the live sessions or view the recordings on demand. And so they cover topics, everything from, oops, sorry. It covers everything from job search strategy for international students to, you know, something as specific as like finding jobs in Canada, or, you know, they even share success stories from international students in specific industries or successful career pivots. So really check those out because they have a lot of really great content. Other places I recommend checking out in InterStride are their jobs tab, where they have a job board that is specifically H-1B sponsoring, top H-1B sponsoring employers, as well as, you know, you can also filter by CPT and OPT, and you can, you know, specify the industry you're interested in, or the job function you're interested in, and then you can find jobs that are posted by those top sponsoring employers. Something to keep in mind is that even though the job was posted by an employer who is sponsored in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean that specific job will include sponsorship. So it's always important to double check the job description and make sure they haven't specifically stated that they do not sponsor, or that it's US citizen only or something like that. And then the other section I like within the jobs tab is the the US Visa Insights tab, which is where you can do research on the top sponsoring employers in your industry. So that's the one you see a screenshot of on the bottom left. So you can search by visa type. It also includes a permanent residence filter if you want to do that. Enter an industry, enter the year if you want, and then it'll basically show you the list of employers within that industry that have petitioned for H-1B the most times within whatever time frame you selected. So as you can see here from this search, Amazon is the top H-1B sponsor with 17,537 petitions. And if you click view, that will actually show you the list of all of the different jobs that they petitioned for, as well as the salaries and other information. So it's also helpful that it shows the average salary, so that can kind of help you when you're trying to negotiate that first full-time job after your internship, or when you're just trying to plan out your career. So the next resource I wanted to share is called Going Global. So like InterStride, it does have an H-1B and OPT job board, but the part, I don't think it's that different from InterStride. So the part of Going Global that I think is actually the most valuable is its career guides. So Going Global actually hires staff located all around the world in different top cities who are experts in that region. And they keep these updated country, global city, and US city career guides on every, sorry, I think it's automatically going. It keeps they update these career guides on everything from you know, how to find a job, what are the top employers in the city, what is the job culture like, you know, so for example, like the work culture, is it very like top down, or is it very casual, is it very formal, very collective or individualistic? So that's really helpful information to know. It gives you tips on, you know, how to build your resume and cover letter for that city or country. So like if you're trying to, you know, it has that information for the US and different cities in the US, but also if you're wanting to look at like a third country, you're trying to, maybe you want to go, you know, go to the UK, and it'll give you tips on how to build a resume in the UK for a job in the UK. So that's really awesome. And it also has this fun tool called Culture Wizard, where you could take a little quiz about your, you know, job preferences, and it'll show you the results, and you can compare those results to different countries around the world. So according to the Culture Wizard, my way of working is the closest to people in the UK, actually, even though I've never worked and lived there. But it is sort of like a fun way to see kind of how your personality and work style kind of stack up around the world. And then the last resource I want to share, which is probably my current favorite, actually, it's called F1 Hire. So F1 Hire is a Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge extension that you can download. And basically, once you've downloaded it, you create an account using your USC email. Make sure you use your USC email, because then you get the free premium version. So, you know, don't miss out on that, because it is better. But once you've done that, you create what's called a job search strategy and a profile. So you update that, and you can input your major. Once you've inputted your major, it will recommend job titles for you based on your major. So you can select all the job titles that you're interested in. You can, you know, filter by location. You can filter by, you know, job level, like internship or entry level. And then from there, it will automatically update your job search in whichever job board you're using. So it works in these 5 job boards. So Google Jobs, Indeed, Handshake, and Glassdoor, and LinkedIn. And so then what you see here is sort of a preview of what it looks like. So it will give you the H-1B history of the employer on the left side, and then it'll give you more details about the job on the right side. And so as you can see on the left side is example. So Bloom, in this example, I've expanded the summary version, and it shows that Bloom has sponsored for H-1B last year. They made 1 petition for H-1B in 2023. They also support non-STEM majors, so they are willing to hire non-STEM OPT students. And it will also say whether or not they've participated in E-Verify, which is a requirement for the STEM OPT extension. So if they've done that before, if they do participate in E-Verify, that means that they have hired a STEM OPT student in the past, and that will make it easier for you to do STEM OPT with them as well. So it also, if you upload your resume into your F1 Hire dashboard, it will also give you a profile match for the job that you're looking at. So you can see kind of at the bottom of the screen here, there's like a 0%. That's because I didn't upload a resume here, but once you've uploaded one, it'll actually compare your resume to the qualifications in the job and can give you a brief highlight of how good of a match you are. So there's still like a lot more functions to F1 Hire. This is a really brief overview, but I definitely recommend checking it out. It's really handy, and it's a really great way to really focus your energy on those employers that are willing to hire international talent, and not waste your time on the ones that are not willing to sponsor or hire for CPT or OPT. So, Lauren, since you're here, I don't know if you want to jump in. I know I've been talking for a while, so happy to hand it off if you're up for it. And if not, I can also continue if you're still here.
Sure, I'm definitely still here. I'm swapping between multiple screens, so I will keep my video like that. But welcome, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday and staying cool with this heat. As Addie mentioned, my name is Lauren Ochgenorth. I'm the Associate Director of Internship Engagement. And one of the areas that I've been speaking about for quite some time are the different ways that students can engage one another and try to gain insight about the various different industries, job functions, or areas is really by networking. And sometimes people think, oh no, networking, I'm asking for something. What does this actually look like? We really see networking as the opportunity to connect with someone, whether it's connecting, as you're passing by or, signing up for something maybe a little bit lengthier, like a 10-15 minute conversation, but really utilizing those individuals that are in your existing contacts, whether they are your peers, your family members, making use of those office hours with faculty members, maybe even looking at some of your different supervisors or mentors. It doesn't necessarily matter who they are, but it's someone who is maybe doing something in a field that you have interest in. And so they can provide a little bit more insight into the experience. And so that we find this is a great opportunity for you to ask these questions. A lot of times people think, oh, this is something I will do after I graduate. Do not wait that long, because when you're a student, here's a great opportunity for you to ask those questions of what did you do while you were still in school to gain this experience? Or what are some of the ways that I can set myself apart from others who are looking to pursue this particular opportunity? So it's really just having that connection. And, it doesn't have to be a new connection. It could be someone that you're reconnecting with as you look forward to, the upcoming end of the year, the winter break, the holidays, those opportunities when all of a sudden maybe there's different groups of people that you're coming in contact with. Just even asking them, what are you doing these days? How, where are you working? What does that look like? You never know what doors might be opened just by your willingness to have those conversations. It might start off informal, and before you know it, you might be passing around that resume. So it's definitely in your best interests. Also, we do have a couple of different resources that we would encourage you to make use of if you weren't going to go about it in more of the spontaneous fashion that I just described. Would really encourage you to reach out to our USC alums through either our Trojan Network. This is a platform that has about 20,000 different alums on it. These are all individuals that have said, yes, I want to go ahead and help students through this process. It's a really great opportunity to be able to search again by industry, by job function. Where did they live on campus when they were a student? Where are they currently living geographically? They can talk about some of their different extracurriculars and otherwise. And there's a number of different ways that you can try to make those connections. And again, it's more of that informal piece. I will always recommend to students, if you're new with this networking process, start with our Trojan Network. Because when you select an individual to reach out to, there are templates in place that come up with some really good content or verbiage to be able to articulate, well, how do I say, like, hi, my name is, and I'm interested in reaching out to you. You can say something as simple as, hi, I found your information on our Trojan Network. I'm currently a third year studying econ, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you became an analyst. Please let me know if you've got 10 or 15 minutes where we can chat. I look forward to hearing from you. Fight on your name, and then there you have it. So the idea is these are people that are going to provide a little bit more of their expertise in the field. And so Trojan Network can certainly help you with that. Or if you want access to more than 350,000 alums, then you can certainly utilize LinkedIn. Just being aware that sometimes, LinkedIn people are trying to brand themselves or promote themselves, and they might not necessarily respond as quickly as you want them to. But it's a great way to get some advice, some experience with some informational interviews. So then when you are going in for the real thing and it matters, you'll feel that much more confident and prepared. But of course, most importantly, and what you will see on the slide, be yourself. We want you to be genuine. There's no point in trying to fabricate who you are or what those abilities might be. But certainly something that we're always certainly encouraging is to put your best foot forward, making sure that you're being truly genuine, because people can read through that so quickly. So hopefully that can help. And that's a little bit about networking. Yeah. Addie, you want me to keep going? Great. Okay. So now then, as far as some of the documents that you're going to need, I always recommend to students, make sure you have a final draft of all of these elements before you start having conversations, because one of the things that people might say is, great, now that you've got, now that you've made the connection, I'd love to see a copy of that resume, cover letter, or reference page. So something to consider is, okay, what am I going to do, with that? So within your resume, we certainly are suggesting that one page where you can highlight specifically your education, your extracurricular activities, any of your relevant work experience. For some of you, that might include some projects, academic projects, or things that you do outside, but certainly the resume is going to be that key component. Those are going to be some of your discussion points that you could be talking about that. There's also going to be the cover letter. I know sometimes people think, well, why do I need to write individual cover letters, or is that really necessary? That is absolutely something that we would recommend, just because it gives you the chance to be able to show a little bit more about why is it that you want this particular position? What's your writing style like? How can you, advocate for yourself and your experience, versus others? So that's definitely something that we would certainly request that you have. And then, of course, a reference page. Just know that for each of these three items, we do have a resume booklet or it's resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile booklet. It's 25 pages in length, so we don't print out multiple copies. We use QR codes and other various things here, but it's a great way to have some examples. Within that booklet, though, we certainly have the opportunity for you to be sharing, what have other students indicated in their resume and cover letter, as well as a reference page as well. And a lot of times students will say, well, what should I include in a reference page? Is that something that is, necessary? I typically say for undergraduates, think about the 2 to 3 people that wrote you those letters of recommendation for college. Those are maybe your faculty or professors from high school. They're also maybe different coaches, different supervisors, people who can speak about your abilities. And then for graduate students, I say try to have like 3 to 5 of those different references. These are going to be individuals that can speak highly about your talents. And in the reference page, you include their name, their email, phone number, and just one of the key elements, make sure these people are your reference. So if someone does actually outreach to them saying, hey, can you tell me what you think of Tommy Trojan and their past experience when they, worked with you or when they were in your class, they can then have a copy of your most up-to-date resume so they can speak about and say, oh yes, last year they ended up getting the top grade in the class, or they were my strongest intern, and I hope I can bring them back for a future opportunity, just something like that. It's a really great way for them to be able to endorse you as a candidate and offer that clarification. So yes, you're definitely going to want to see that resume, that cover letter, and then that reference page. All right, keep the questions coming as necessary. Otherwise, we'll then continue to the next slide. Yes. So of course, you've done all the work. You've submitted all these final drafts, and now you are trying to secure the internship. So in thinking about the final steps, this is probably, I think, sometimes the most tedious part, because you're trying to think, what can I do to absolutely, do the best job on an interview as possible? And we've got a few different ways that can help you out with that. Of course, you can go to their, website and review a little bit about what they've been up to, reading their mission statement, even Googling to see what they've been doing most recently in the news. That's a great way to kind of start. But we also have a few different resources that might be of a great benefit to you. One of my favorites is our big interview platform. This is available now on Handshake. I mention it because there's really 2 different tracks that come along with Big Interview. So if you're the student that's thinking, gosh, I would love to, and I'm just going to put it here in the link. So if you're like, well, how can I go about and get that? But specifically for Big Interview, there's 2 different tracks. There's either the Mastery or the Fast Track. And so Fast Track is for people who've got that interview within 24 hours and kind of want a real quick overview, or what are some of the things that I can prepare for, from everything from tell me about yourself to what are my strengths and weaknesses, or what makes me that ideal candidate. It'll give you a real quick, simplified version of things to anticipate. Versus the Mastery will take you on a few different twists and turns of how to get to, preparing what are going to be some of the things you hope to highlight within your experience. For those students who are, so I would say big interview really works for all students. For those who are interested in pursuing the consulting field, I would highly recommend, or more analytical fields, that's where you're going to want to check out Case Questions Interactive. And this is a really great overview because it will really give you some suggested prompts and how about you can go about in the way in going through this process. Case interviews, there's really nothing like them. They're not the behavioral questions that you might be used to. And so this is a really great way to help prepare for those experiences. And certainly don't wait until the day before to go through case questions because you're going to run out of time and we want to make sure that you do your best. And of course, last but certainly not least, you can always do a mock interview appointment here in the Career Center. So much like our other advising appointments, you can make a mock interview appointment. We do suggest that you give us at least a week, if not longer, just because what we do is we do actually prepare questions based on the job description that you do send us. So the more advanced time, certainly the better. But during that time, not only will you have the chance to dress the part and go through some of your basic questions, but then also get some feedback from an advisor during the experience. So the idea is we try to make it as lifelike as possible, but if you've done your research, utilize Big Interview or Case Questions Interactive, and or even come in person, you'll be that much more prepared. And of course, if you've done all these steps, we want to make sure that you can show your gratitude. And so we would highly recommend that you send a thank you note. So we want you to email within 24 hours of the interview, just letting them know something as simple as, and of course, we've got examples for this as well, something like, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with me today. I love learning about the project initiative, the, whatever it was that you discussed, and how you hope to hear from them in the future. It's really in your best interest to try to personalize it because it then shows that you really want to be a part of that team. You really are willing to put in the time even before you get the paycheck or the experience. And so let them know that that's what really interests you at that point. So these are something that we do see. I think that there's certainly a lot of opportunity for students to send those thank you notes. And by doing email, it'll get into the inbox of the individual who's making that question or the individual who's making that hiring decision sooner rather than later. As far then as what to do with the offer. So again, you have secured the internship, or excuse me, you're in the process of securing the internship. You get that phone call. They say, guess what? We'd love to extend you this offer. We would always recommend that you get it in writing. I know what happens. Sometimes you answer the phone and you just think, I've got the offer. I'm so excited. I want to go celebrate. But it's really important that, you probably have some of the basics like the name of the company and the department, but what would your title be? Who is your supervisor? When would you start and when would you end? Now, even if you say, you know what, I'm going to be starting August through December, that's fine. But the more specific, certainly the better. Just because we want to make sure that you are managing the expectations, not only for you yourself as a student, but for the employer. Because sometimes with the work schedule, it can get very, very busy, but you want to make sure, all right, if I have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then I want to make sure I'm going to be at my internship Tuesdays and Thursdays. I want to let them know about fall breaks, spring breaks, any planned vacations, anything like that that could conflict. And you certainly want to just, really verify whether it's paid or unpaid. I know sometimes you might think, oh, well, I'm going to try to turn this unpaid opportunity to a paid one or vice versa or anything like that. Make sure that within handshake or a job description, it would indicate that detail. So then you could see how often are you getting paid? What is the wage? What does that look like? And so that's definitely something that we want to be able to showcase for that. So that's something that is there. If you're curious, there have been times when people didn't realize that they're going to get paid every month versus every 2 weeks, or they thought that they were going to be getting, paid cash versus having it be, through a direct deposit or other means. So it's just really important to clarify all these details in advance. And then also asking them whether there's any disclosures or confidentiality or any agreements that you would need to sign ahead of time before you start doing that work. Again, Sometimes there's just confidentiality, purposes of why organizations have them, and that's fine. But we want to make sure that you are being informed about how this information is being used. Wonderful.
I'm going to jump in now because on the note of getting the job offer in writing, you're also going to need that as an international student if you're applying to CPT or OPT. Having that job offer is a requirement. So for CPT, which is curricular practical training, that's typically the one that you're going to do while you're still in your program at USC. You actually need the job offer before you can even begin the CPT application. So this is the first step to getting CPT, is get that all the information in writing, including all of these same things are pretty much what you're going to need for the CPT application. And for OPT, you can apply for OPT first. OPT is optional practical training. That's the one you'll do after you graduate. You can apply for OPT first, but once you get the job offer, you do have to update that information with OAS so they can update your file. So that is a requirement as well. So more on CPT and OPT. So as I mentioned, for CPT, you get the offer letter first, and then once you have the offer letter, you have to register for the internship course in order to fulfill the curricular requirement of CPT. So what that means is basically, in order for CPT to be curricular in nature, it has to align with your degree program. So it has to meet the needs of the curriculum of your degree. So if you are not in a program that has an internship as part of its requirements, then unfortunately you do have to register for an internship course to meet that requirement. And that course has to be taken in the same semester that you do your internship on CPT. And so it's really important. I highly recommend all of you check out, if you haven't already, the OIS website, which is ois.usc.edu. Because they have all of this written out in detail, the whole process for applying for CPT and applying for OPT and what's required. So I highly recommend that you familiarize yourself with those processes so that you're not waiting until the last minute, you have an internship or you have a job before you try to figure out how to do that, because that will be stressful, and you want to make sure that you're meeting also the timeline requirements for both of those. For CPT, the deadline to apply for CPT is the last add drop date of the semester. So you can't just do CPT at any time. You have to kind of plan it so that you're starting it sort of with the start of the semester. That's the ideal timing. And here is OAS's. OAS also has an email for contacting them, although I think that's probably not the most efficient way to ask them questions because they do get thousands of emails every day. So you may want to just hop into their virtual drop-in advising sessions, which they offer Monday through Friday at different times. So this, I believe, is their current schedule. Mondays 1 to 3, Tuesdays 10 to 2, and then alternating through Friday. And you can find that schedule in the drop-in advising tab on their website. And then also the Zoom link is directly below this schedule. So you just go into the Zoom and then you wait until the next advisor is available to answer your question. So another important thing to think about when you're searching for internships, it can be stressful. I get it. We all understand here at the Career Center that the internship search process is not easy, especially for international students. So give yourself grace, be patient with yourself. Try not to take it personally if you don't get a response or if you get a rejection. Understand that a lot of these recruiters, these individuals that are in high demand jobs, they get thousands of emails every day. They get tons of messages on LinkedIn. So try not to take it personally, and also don't be too hard on yourself when you don't find success right away. It's hard for everybody, but I acknowledge there are additional barriers for international students. So just do the best you can, right? Know that you're putting your best foot forward, applying all the information that we're giving you, putting out your best resume, your best cover letter, making those connections, networking, meeting with employers face to face, doing everything you can to produce quality applications, focus on quality over quantity, and then also have backup plans. So recognize that the H-1B pathway is a very narrow pathway. There is only 65,000 H-1B H-1Bs given out every year, and that's a very small number for compared to the number of people who are petitioning. So just be realistic about that, and think about all of the different pathways you can take to reach your end goal of your career. Sometimes that might mean gaining experience in another country and then returning to the US. Sometimes that may mean transferring, like getting internships and jobs at different companies and building up gradually until you reach your end goal. So just educate yourself on the different pathways and the different options, because there are others. And that's something that I will also try to share throughout the year with through workshops with partners, external partners and internal partners at USC. So just keep an eye out for that stuff. Manage your time well. So make sure you have enough time to maintain those grades. Make sure you have time for your well-being, mental health, making friends, networking with your peers as well, while also applying for internships. Celebrate the small wins. Just getting an invitation to interview is a huge win. Like, imagine, just remember that a lot of the jobs that you want are the jobs that hundreds of other people want. So if they chose you to interview, that is a huge win, and celebrate that. Just know, that you're controlling what you can control, and again, just doing the best that you can, and celebrate any win that you get along the way. Prioritize downtime. So if you're feeling burnt out, just give yourself a break, because you're not going to be able to have good results if you're not putting in your best self, right? So that's just important, to take care of yourself through the process, and know that it's okay to ask for help. I'm so happy that you've all come here for this workshop, because you're trying to set yourself up for success, and you can always come back to us for advising, for drop-ins, for other workshops in the future, to ask for help, because we're here to support. And if you are feeling reaching the point where you feel really like run down and burnt out and depressed, or struggling with a job search, we also have counseling and mental health services for students at USC. And you can learn more about their services at studenthealth.usc.edu. They can be a huge help, just to help you manage the stress and keep putting your best self forward in your internship search. I also wanted to highlight the international student career pages of our website. So those I mentioned this a little bit earlier in this session, but this is the place where you can find all of the upcoming events for international students. So I've highlighted some of those here. USC Career Resources for International Students is tomorrow afternoon. We also have a workshop with an immigration lawyer on self-sponsored green card options for international postdoctoral students. There's also a session on tapping into the Trojan Network, specifically targeted for networking with employers. And then the International Student Virtual Career Fair on September 24th. So that's just in the next few weeks, and then there's going to be more coming up. So definitely keep an eye on those. And you'll also be able to see all of the resources that I shared with you earlier specific to international students on this page. There also will be recordings of past workshops for international students on this page, and this one as well. Once we have uploaded it into YouTube, I will also upload it in the international student career pages. Lastly, for more information, the USC Career Center, if you haven't visited yet, we're located in the Student Union building. That's across from Seeds Cafe or TCC. We're in Student Union Building 110. This is our general careers email and also our website address. And as I mentioned, we have drop-in advising, and that's every Monday to Friday, 1 to 3:30 p.m. We reserve drop-ins typically for resume, cover letter review, or short 10 to 15-minute sessions to answer basic career questions. But if you want to have a longer appointment, you can make an appointment with us in Handshake. And please follow us on social media. Our social media is very active and engaging and fun, especially our Instagram. I highly recommend you follow us and engage with us. And we also post updates about upcoming events. So it's definitely a helpful page to follow. And then here's our contact information. Yeah, that's all for the presentation.